Hello, friends. We're here again this afternoon, and we just wanted to share a few minutes about some of our feelings about compassionate hope in our journey. And I've got Daniel here, and I just wanted to ask him a couple of questions and invite you into this conversation. And if you have any questions that you want to add to this, you can certainly do that in the comment box. So, Daniel, while I have you fully captive here, thinking back a couple of years ago when you first came to me about supporting a college student for our family, what was it that first attracted you to Compassionate Hope Foundation?
Now, before we started this video, Jenny did ask me to think about this, and I jotted down a few things, so you will see me looking down at my notes because I have a short memory. But what attracted me, I think it is important to sometimes share my heart on what attracted me to this ministry over other ministries. And I have over the years followed a lot of different ministries and still follow a lot of different ministries. Number one is the long track record and the trust that I have in our founder, Al Henson. I met Al Henson many years ago, 22 years ago to be exact, and that was at the beginning of my ordained ministry. I was just being ready to be ordained by Longsmen Baptist Church in Segongsville, Tennessee. And Al Henson came, and for 2 years he spoke at a men's retreat that I've been involved with for almost 30 years. And he spoke on faith and living by faith and knowing God and some different things that God really used to probably change the direction of my ministry and my life. And I don't guess we can explain everything that happened then, because a lot of stuff, we don't know what God was really doing at that time. But I have a lot of faith and trust and respect for Al Henson, and knowing that the long time that he pastored in Antioch, Tennessee, and the different aspects of his ministry, he could have went and done anything with his influence and his education, but he has devoted himself in his later years to these homes and to these children, to this ministry, and just the burden that he has drawn me to this ministry, because God allowed him in our life many years ago, and we learned to trust him. Number two is when I first saw the need of the children, and we began to hear more about trafficking and exploitation, and we begin to just see what a great need it is. And of course, we begin to realize how sheltered we are sometimes here in the Bible Belt, and of course, we're beginning to see a lot of trafficking in this area too. And then we heard of how all the different combinations of the culture, the lack of education, the poverty, and the customs and everything in these other countries, how it makes it a perfect environment for this trafficking to happen. And we begin to get a burden for that, and to see that and see the great need of the children, and for the need of a ministry like this. And there are other ministries like this also, and just seeing the need of the children. Number three, when I began to learn from Al and Susan and the different ones in Compassionate Hope, I began to learn the philosophy that governs how we operate. And what I mean by that is, for many years, I've studied missions, I've studied missionaries, I've read multiple biographies and different ways and different philosophies of evangelism and all that, and I begin to see some flawed thoughts just within myself, and not any one thing particular here today that I've got in mind, except that sometimes I think we have tried to reach people in a Western way or in an American way, and we tried to Westernize them or Americanize them and tried to duplicate in a different country what we have here. And I think a lot of times that has been rejected. And then I heard the philosophy of Al Henson, how, and I believe it's the closest thing to scriptural philosophy that we have of missions, is that the nationals can do a better job. God has given them their native land, their native tongue, gave them their customs and the understanding of all of that, and they can do a better job than us. They're more equipped. Just if for nothing else, they know the language well and the customs. And the philosophy of compassionate hope is that the nationals can do the job, but they need us. They need us to support them in many different ways, including financially, and they need us to partner with them. And that philosophy drew me in to compassionate hope and gave me a burden for it. And then number 4, I would say, seeing the success of compassionate hope and its homes of hope and this philosophy at work. We have success stories. Right now, 800 plus children that we've rescued, that's a success story. If we never did anything else, we rescued multiple children from this horrific life of trafficking and slavery and all that goes with that, and just seeing the success of it. And for you all that's listening to this, we can share with you story after story after story, success stories, where God has delivered people and where God has used us and used Compassionate Hope and used Al and Susan and all of our different missionaries to rescue these children. And that drew us into the success. And then the 5th thing is, and Compassionate Hope is, we mostly do work with the children and the homes, but it has several different avenues that it supports the Christians, and they're in Southeast Asia. And another thing that really drew me in, and it's one place where my heart really is, I'm a pastor, and being a pastor, I saw the faithfulness and the hardships and the poverty and the persecution of our churches in Laos and Thailand and the Philippines, and how it's important for us to support them and associate with them, as well as our need of them to encourage us and our churches in missions and in the endeavors that God has called us to in helping them. I guess Hebrews chapter 13, where the writer says, remember them in their afflictions. Remember them because we're all in this together. And it's important to me to associate and partner with our brothers and sisters in every country. And missions in general has always stirred mine and Jenny's hearts. And God has just put us with Compassionate Hope and drawn us in because of these different things here today, and many more things we could probably talk about if we could think a while. But that is just some of the stuff that has drawn us into Compassionate Hope Foundation. Jenny?
There's not a single thing that I would add to that other than just thank you for loving us. Those that are watching this, thank you for joining with us in this burden that this calling. This is the greatest joy of our lives, but it's also the hardest thing that we've ever done. This first part, the raising support for ourselves part. So just thank you for joining with us. Thank you for taking the time to share these few moments with us today. And we just pray for you that are listening. And God bless you. We love you.